Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Fighting for Freedom podcast. I am your host, Vinny Harum, and I will be basically going through everything as to, why I started this podcast, why I joined the military, the person I am today, and how I eventually got to where I am, right? So, the reason why I started all of this is because, I'm active duty military. I've been in the military for about 6, 7 years now. Feel like my entire career, the name Fighting for Freedom kind of made sense to me, right, for this pod. A lot of people join the military because they want to fight for freedom. And then while they're in the military, I feel like some of them end up fighting for freedom, but in a different way, right? We do our basic jobs and, we do what we got to do while we're in the military. But a lot of strings come along with that, meaning, mental health issues, drug or alcohol abuse, or just people that don't really fit in with the military. The military is not for everybody, so some people just can't adapt, and they're fighting for their civilian freedom in a sense. They all made the ultimate sacrifice to join the military, so you have to give everybody credit for that. They chose to fight for freedom, to fight for their flag, to fight for their country, fight for their friends, fight for their family. And I think that is like one of the best things you could ever do. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying to join the military. It's not for everybody. If it's something that you're definitely interested in, I say do some research into it. You'll hear a lot of people that I ask them advice for people that are thinking about joining the military, and they're just like, do your research because it's a contract, right? And obviously, you join the military with intentions of fighting for your country. So do your research, find out what would be the best fit for you, and then kick it in the ass. It's probably one of the best decisions I've ever, made in my life. I honestly am so thankful for all the friends and all the people and all the leadership that I've had over the past. As much as they seem like dickheads because of what they were telling me or making me do, honestly, it was for the greater good. Cause I wouldn't be the person I am today without the people that made me do all the dumb bullshit. And I just couldn't be grateful. Also for you, the listeners, the viewers, the people who have been following me ever since I started this. I started this podcast just with an idea, right? So I was driving to work one day and I listen to podcasts a lot. I'm kind of into them. They're enjoyed it. So there's this one podcast in particular called Flagrant. It's with Andrew Schulz. Shout out Schultz. So, I had this idea in my head and I was like, I want to create a podcast. I kind of want to do it with military members, right? One day I'm driving, through base and I see this one veteran and, he had, he definitely had some medical conditions. I'm not going to go into what they were or whatever, but I was just very curious. I was like, how the hell did he get to where he is, right? What happened? I don't want to know details. I don't want to know, the crazy stories, but I just want to talk to him and listen to him. So as I'm listening to this Andrew Schulz podcast, he says, if you have an idea, you have a goal, just do it. Because failure comes in like many shapes and forms, right? So if you try something and you don't succeed and you fail, it's okay. At least you say you tried. But if you don't try at all, that's the biggest failure of them all. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start this podcast up. And I have been having crazy fun. I'm still learning the ins and the outs and all of the audio settings and all of that good stuff. So just bear with me. It will get better over time. I'm just honestly doing this as a hobby, and also something that I truly enjoy is to listen to people and their stories. It's very intriguing to me, and I hope it's intriguing to you. I assume it's intriguing to you. That's why you're on here. So kind of going back a little bit, When I was in high school, I was just like a normal average kid, just, did what I had to do, C's get degrees, you know what I'm saying? And there was like the ROTC program, never interested in it. I was like, I'm not wearing a uniform to work. Like in New York, those kids don't really like, do the best like socially or whatever. So I was like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm just gonna go play handball and like, yeah, live my high school life. After high school, I was like, okay, well, now what? Everyone goes to college, so the norm is to go to college. So I went to college and I hated it. I was like, nope, this sucks. So after about a semester and a half, I dropped out. I was just like, I'm not going back. Told my mom, I was like, college, not for me. I'm good. See you later. Sayonara. Right? So since I was about 16 years old, I've always been like a waiter. I've always been a server. So as I was in college, I was still doing all that, and I was a server from the age of 16 when I got my first working papers in the state of New York till a week before I left for boot camp. So I went back to being a server, and I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? Like, I can't do this the rest of my life. Yeah, it's fun. The money's great. I get to talk to people all day. Love that. But what am I going to do, right? So I found this nursing school called St. Paul's School of Nursing, and I enrolled myself into that program to be a medical assistant. The program was pretty good. It was very fast paced. So it was a associate's degree. So it was a 2-year degree, broken down into 18 months. Kind of did straight through, no really days off, and it was miserable. But it was also very, very good and knowledgeable. My professors were great. The people that were in my class were great. There's some of them are like, good lifelong friends now that, we talk on Facebook and whatnot, but it was just a great group of people, and I'm glad I went when I did. Medical assisting was not what I thought it was going to be. I probably wish I would have went to the nursing field, but with everything that's gone on medically in the past couple of years, so glad I did not. So I finished medical assistant school, and then I started like an unpaid internship, right? So I'm in this unpaid internship, and I'm working, not in the best of neighborhoods, but it's still a job. So I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. I just do some heights and weights, and it was like a gynecologist, a pediatric, and a podiatrist office all in one. So it was kids, feet, and the last one. Um, it was all right. It wasn't what I thought like nursing would be or medical assisting would be. After about 6 to 7 months, I was just like, you know what? I can't fucking do this no more. Like this is just so like, oh, I don't know. I just was not happy. So I told my mom, I was like, yo, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. They're like, why not? And I was like, just I didn't think this is what it was gonna be. I watched like, like hospital shows all my life, and I was like, that's badass. And then I got to reality of it, and I was like, this fucking sucks, you know. So she was like, all right, well, just you don't have to do it no more, but figure out what you would want to do. Go continue to be a server, make your money, do what you got to do, pay your bills, and while you're doing that, try to get a job in a hospital. Maybe that'll be different. Maybe you'll like that more. So that's what I did. I continued to work as a server, and I try to get into as many hospitals as possible. But it was very hard for me because at the time, 2015, 2016, to hire a male nurse was like kind of unheard of. Not even a male nurse, a male medical assistant was kind of unheard of. So I definitely got those. I even walked into a doctor's office one day just to get something in that field to like kind of brush up my memory and build that resume. And the doctor straight up told me, he was like, "Yo, I'm sorry, but you're not a girl. You don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. That's literally what we look for. Because when someone walks into an office, that's what they want to see. They don't want to see a male here." I was like, I get it. Also, it was kind of rough where I had female patients come in, and I would always have to ask, like, "Are you comfortable with me being like, in the room for all?" And most of them were like, "Baby, I don't give a fuck." And I was like, "Oh, all right, dope." But some of them were like, "Actually, yeah, I do mind." So that kind of cut down my limitations of what I could and could not do. Yeah, shitty. right? So after that, I was like, you know what, this is just not gonna fucking work out. So I continued to be a server. I was like, Ma, this is just not gonna work. And she was like, well, you better figure your shit out because you went to college, you had a big bill, you have a degree, what are you gonna do with it? And I was like, I don't know. While I was in college, I did join a fraternity, right? While I was in that fraternity, I had actually found out he was one of my cousins through my going away party to the military. His name's Dylan. Shout out Dylan. So he came back from the army. He finished his contract honorably, and he came like to the fraternity. And I was like, "Yo, like you're in my fraternity?" He was like, "Yep, but I went to the army. I'm done now. I'm back." And I was like, "Oh shit! Like how is the military?" And he was like, it is what it is. It's the most fun I never want to have ever again. You meet some of the greatest people in your life. You get to travel the world. They make sure you got shelter, you got food, and you got clothes in your back. Like yeah, that sounds like exactly what I want, like what I need, right? It's a new start to just go somewhere else and just leave where you are and have no regrets, no baggage to take with you. So I was like, wow, the military, huh? You were in the army. I wonder what that's like. That's not gonna happen. So I started to do a little bit of research, just a little bit, right? And I was like, what can I possibly do in the military that would like make me happy and I'd be able to like go and like serve my country. So I looked into the army and I was like, probably not really into that whole like ah stuff. So Marines never gonna happen. Definitely not into that. Love Call of Duty, not in real life though. The Air Force, I was like, they're a little too soft, right? Probably should have went there because the programs that they have for the field I'm in now are amazing. They do crazy HVAC and plumbing work, and I love working with them. The Air Force they're dope. So I looked into the Navy and I was like, ship? No fucking thank you. Seeing a little YouTube video, I was like, I am not going on one of those. Apparently, they're actually really comfortable and they accommodate you very well, knowing that you're on this, ship for however amount of months with the same amount of people. But I was still like, no, there's got to be an option. There's got to be something that I like that I want to do. So I looked into, like a CB. I was like, what the hell is a CB? Found out they never go on ships. All they do is vertical construction and set up defense. So basically, blow things up and build schools and hospitals overseas and all that cool shit. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I walked into a recruiter's office in the Navy, and he was like, take this practice test. And I was like, all right. He thought I took the test backwards. That's how bad I did. And I was like, dude, I don't know, like, algebra. That was like 10 years ago. Like, what? So he was like, all right, you need to study this, and then we'll go take your real ASVAB at MEPS. Or whatever the hell MEPS is, but I'm not paying for gas, right? So I studied, I went to MEPS, I took my test, and I was like, oh, I got a 38. I passed. And they're like, yeah, 35 is passing. And I'm like, ha, still counts. So they gave me my list of jobs, and I was like, there's not a lot of jobs here. They were like, yeah, well, you got a 38. You can try again if you want, or pick one of these. And I was like, well, what are my options? And they're like, you want to be a CS? And I was like, what the hell is that? They're like, a cook. I was like, can't do it. Next. They're like, you want to be a BM? I was like, what's that? And they're like, boatswain's mate. I said, boat? Nope. Next. They said, you want to be a EO? So what does that mean? Equipment operator. Oh, equipment, like trucks? They're like, yep. I was like, oh, that's land. What else I got? They're like, UT. I was like, oh, okay. Next, I bet you know what I'm going to say. But what the fuck is that? They were like, it's a plumber. And I was like, huh, plumber. I can do that. It's like adult Legos, right? They were like, oh, God, sign here. And I was like, all right. So I signed and I became a UT in the Seabees. Um, Probably the best decision I made because, yes, we don't go on ships. I've seen them. Don't know where they go. Don't know really what they look like. Boot camp was kind of like a little pass for me because the whole time, America's Navy, and then there's the Seabees, a small little group, right? And boot camp was also fun though, because for me, coming from a fraternity, it's like I had these college kids who would just get down on you and, instill positive mentalities into your head. And yes, sometimes, not so nice way, but then also sometimes in a nice way. It's the brotherhood that they want to make sure that you're ready for, and this lifelong commitment of connections. So to me, boot camp was kind of like that. Yes, you have these RDCs, yelling at you and screaming at you and making you do all these exercises and just completely embarrassing you at times. But that's what America's military, in my eyes, is kind of like representing, right? We need to make sure like you are ready for what you signed up for. We need to make sure you know your shit. The person to your left, right, front, behind, everybody knows their shit and they're all on the same page. And I was like, this is like an honor, like I am really in like the US military boot camp right now. And this is great. Yeah, it sucked. Would I do it again? No, but it was fun, and the meaning behind it, other than like go to boot camp, graduate, you're in the military, good job. It's like there's a bigger picture behind it as they break you down to try to get you to that point where you're like, yo, I need help, and I really am lost, and that's when you can count on your brothers and your sisters to your left, to your right. It was honestly one of the weirdest experiences of my life. Day one, it was August 13th, 2017. They put me in a hotel, and all my friends and family come, and they all hang out with you before you go. Um, so the next morning, that you wake up and they give you breakfast, and my recruiter came in, and I'm an Italian, right? So like we eat now because we'll be skinny when we die. And my recruiter came in and he goes, "Harem, you ain't eating breakfast." And he handed me a cup of ice cubes, and I was like, what the fuck am I? He was like, "That's your breakfast." I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, oh, this is already not looking too good. But I already signed the paper, so ice cubes it is. So we get on the bus, and they bring us to the airport, and the airport brings us to Great Lakes, and they bus us all over. And that first day you're there, they're like, all right, everyone make a phone call and tell your family this little script and tell them you're safe. And I'm like, yada yada yada. I'm like, all right. So I pull out my phone, turn it on. Fuck, my phone is dead. I'm like, they're like, why the fuck is your hand up? I'm like, because I have a question. They're like, that's not how that works. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I've been here 8 minutes, so I didn't get a welcome packet. So how does this work? My phone's dead. And they're like, well, you're fucked. You're not going home. And I'm like, all right, I guess not. And they were like, use his phone, or we have a phone that you can use. I was like, all right. So I called and I was like, Mom, good, yeah, whatever the hell this spiel was, I don't remember. And she was like, all right, love you, bye. And I was like, fuck, this sucks. So I'm in line, and they shave your head, and they keep you up for all hours of the night just to get everybody like on this same sleep schedule, which is understandable. I get it. But when you first get into your compartment and you first see your rack, you're like, damn, that looks shitty, but I cannot wait to crawl up in that motherfucker. So I get up in my rack, and I'm all like, I'm ready to knock out. There's about 150 dudes in there, and I'm like, oh my god, dude. There's always that one kid, and this one kid was like one bunk down, one bunk over. So I could literally roll over, and I'm looking right at him. And the entire night, he was just crying and sobbing and calling for like his family and his mom. And I'm like, listen, bro, like I get it, like I'm here for you. You need someone to talk to, I got you. But just please, like, get a good night rest, sleep it off, and let's kick this shit in the ass tomorrow. And he's like, okay, he's still going on. 5 minutes later, he's still going on. I'm like, listen, bro, like, you just need to get some sleep. You are sleep deprived. You're tired. We're all scared. We don't know where the hell we are. I don't even know I don't even know my address. I'm lost. And he's still going on and on. And I finally say to him, I'm like, listen, bro, like, people are going to start to get mad. You need to go to bed. Just sleep it off, and we'll talk in the morning. What do you think happens? Again, he goes on and on. That's when I was like, all right, you know what? Whatever happens to him, happens to him. And whatever happened to him, happened to him. But he got a good night rest that night. And that was day one of boot camp. Well, day two, whatever, however long they kept us up for. Uh, in boot camp, I definitely got my ass handed to me a lot of times because people outside of New York, or people in New York and outside of New York, don't take well to a New York accent. So that definitely got me. Yeah, that definitely got me a couple of times. Um, so that's funny. So, boot camp was great and all. I finally finished. And like the number one fear I had the entire time in boot camp was not getting what they call ASMOD. And that's kind of like set back in time. So, like you're supposed to be like 8 to 10 weeks or whatever it is. And if your graduation date is, let's just say, you know, April 1st, you call your friends and your family and you get tickets for them to come to your graduation. They book a flight, they book a hotel. Most of that is probably non refundable because let's be real, who's getting the more expensive option in insurance? No, I don't even read the Apple agreements when they're like, "Oh, do you agree to this update?" I'm like, scroll, yeah, accept. This 40-page paragraph. I'm like, "Yep, sounds good to me." Accept. So if you get ASMOD, you get sent back like a week or 2 weeks or however long is needed. I don't know. I'm not one of those people, so I don't know. But could you imagine like calling your friends and family and be like, "Hey, like, I couldn't run a mile and a half, 13 minutes. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna graduate for another 2 weeks." Like, that was like the worst for me. So that was my whole goal the entire time was to do whatever I got to do, maintain whatever I had to maintain, get in and get the hell out. When I finally did graduate, my mother, my father came to see me, and you don't have like real food. Like, why do that? You have like military food, which sucks. So when I first got out, everyone was taking trips to Chicago to go get deep dish pizza and whatever, whatever, and I was just like, nah, fuck that. I ain't eating this Chicago pizza. No, not gonna happen. So my dad was with me. He's a New Yorker. My mom's with me. She's a New Yorker. And my dad was like, "We're not going to eat that shitty pizza." So we ended up going to a jelly bean factory. My dad will go pants off, dance off for jelly beans. But before we did that, my dad said, "I know where I'm going to take you. You're my son. I know where you need to go for dinner." All right. Driving in the car, pull into a park. I'm like, "Where the hell are we?" I look up, Hooters. And he's like, "This is where my son needs to go after 8 weeks with the same dudes and no girls." I was like, "Damn, you are a great dad." So we went to Hooters, had some wings, had some chicken breasts, you know what I mean? And it was honestly a great time. I kind of do want to touch a little bit going back, though, on the whole point of, how you relay to your family that you're actually joining the military. Don't do what I did. I told my mom, I was like, yeah, I'm going to enlist in the military. She was like, no, you're not. At this point, I was already at the recruiters. I already took my test. She had no clue. Signed my paper. I was in. Done. The last thing I could have did was just not got on that bus and fought whatever battle I had to fight. She was like, "No, you didn't." And I was like, yeah, I did. And I put the papers down, and she just looked at them, and she was like, it was like when I told her I got my first tattoo. And I was like, "Look, I got a tattoo." And she was like, "Ha ha ha." She on the phone my hand, with the big cord from one room all the way through the living room to the kitchen around. And she was like, "No, you're not. No, you didn't." I'm like, "Yeah, I did." So she seemed like my hair was shaved, and she like grabbed a Brillo pad and was like, going to town on it, like, "Holy shit, you got a fucking tattoo and you didn't tell me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of the same thing." I was like, "I joined the military. I'm going to the Navy. 3 months." She was like, oh, and she kind of just broke down, right? But in a good way, broke down. Like, like, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. This was after she put me in like a New York like sleeper hold and kind of gave me like a little love beating in a way. Like any mother would do when they find out like their only child is going away to the military. She was very happy with it. She was like, like my father was in the military. My brother's in the military, so this is what you want to do. Like, I support it, and I'm very proud of you. And I was like, that's what you need. You need a supportive group back home to make sure like you're good to go. I probably should have told her in a different way. Maybe kept her informed the entire process. But I was just, I was just something that I was like, I want to do this, and I'm gonna do it. So after I finished boot camp, I go to my schools, and I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I'm still like doing boot camp rules, but like I feel like I'm in the military. Um, but that didn't happen. So I was like, oh, all right, this is cool. You got to learn your little trades and whatnot. And then after you do your trades, that's when you go on to, your whatever schools you have to go to before you hit your duty station. I ended up hitting my duty station after I went to like my combat school, and then ended up in Port Hueneme, California, with NMCB 5, the professionals. Honestly, a great place. California was amazing. I met some great people. I got to go to some great places on some great debt sites. You learn to adapt to your duty station. When you first get there, you're kind of scared. When I first got to NMCB 5, I got there in like March, mid March, and by April, I was on deployment. So, not even a year into the military, not even 2 months out of my A school, I was on a plane headed to Asia for a 6 month deployment. And I was like, what did I get myself into? I thought I was just going to be like, doing some plumbing, like in like the barracks or like in the kitchen or something. No, that's not what they had in store for me. They sent me to Okinawa, Japan, and I did my deployment there. And I kind of had the mentality of like, yo, like this sucks. My leadership is dope. So let me just like kind of do what they say to do, and then I'll also have my fun in between, right? Because I had my best friend there. I had my buddy AJ. That's my homie, right? So kind of made things a little better. But my leadership was like, yo, do this, 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 and this, and we got you. Uh, okay. So I did whatever the hell they told me to do, and that ended up in me getting selected. Me and four other people getting selected to go on a detachment to work with the Marines, the Filipino Seabees and the Filipino Marines in the Philippines and build a 2-room classroom and a small medical facility. Now, some of the greatest work I've ever did, some of the greatest appreciation I've ever been shown, it was probably one of the highlights of my life. I'll never forget it. I can close my eyes and just see, everything going down, and it was honestly amazing. I was brand new in the Navy. I still had no rank. I had no say in anything, but it was honestly an amazing moment to build what we built in the span of only 30 days. Usually people go out and this will take them, 5, 6 months. But the amount of people that we had on this project and the amount of hours we worked all day, every day, except Sunday, from 7:30, 8 a.m. to some nights even 22. Most days 6, and it was brutal. It was hot as fuck all day long. And oh god, the conditions out there were terrible, but it was the people, it was the locals in that city that we built this school and medical facility for that just made it that much more worth it. They would come up and the little kids would make us like bracelets and give us stickers and draw us pictures. And I'm a young guy and I'm single. I have some money, and my dollar compared to their dollar is completely different. So it was so cool to go up to like all these little kids when they would like give you like bracelets and stuff, and they'd be like a big candy cart, and you just pull out like a $5 US bill and hand it to the person, and they're like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever you want, get it." And then as I go back to the project site, as I'm working, I look over and there's like 15, 20 little kids, and they just keep more and more swarming, and they're all getting candy and toys, and oh god, it was like one of the best experiences of my life. I can go on and on about all my deployments and all the fun and cool shit I've done. I just want to say thank you to everybody listening, everybody who's been following me, and everybody who's been supporting. You know, I felt like I wanted to give this little introduction for this podcast so you can have some FaceTime and some audio time with me to get to hear kind of my story and how I got to where I am now. And I honestly, I'm blessed. I'm not looking to portray any views of the military or the Department of Justice. Everything I'm saying and my guest is saying is completely out of our mouth and our point of view. We in no way, shape, or form speak for anybody else other than ourselves. Uh, I don't like to touch on race, religion, or sex. That's just not topics that I wish to get into. It's not something I'm going to get into. And I honestly just I'm excited. I don't plan on making this like a career. I don't plan on making millions of dollars from it. I don't plan on making any dollars from it. It's just a really cool hobby that I have. My wife, right? She also has the interest in making a podcast. She's had this interest longer than I have. She never really pursued it. So, kind of like a double positive in a way where by me starting mine, hopefully will, you know, give her some light into starting hers. Where all I need her to do is just get in front of a camera with a microphone, say what she has to say, do her thing. Like I know she will, and I can do all the editing and all the socials and all that good stuff for her. So hopefully she sees what I'm doing and realizes, yeah, it's scary, but he did all the scary part. Now all I got to do is just be like, the star. So anyway, well, thank you guys so much for listening to me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you all so much for your support. Until the next time, I'll catch you later, Freedom Empire.